Now we bring in Jeff Van Gundy. He was broadcasting the game yesterday on ABC with Mike Breen and Mark Jackson. And, Jeff, my first question to you, are you properly hydrated after yesterday?
Took IVs all night, and I can tell you that I'm nearly 100%. Well,
thank goodness. I'm not sure how much, Jeff, you pay attention to social media, but, boy, people are jumping on LeBron's courage and toughness, and I personally think, and Don agrees, I mean, what a joke. This guy is about as tough, I think, as you could be. How difficult, I mean, can you tell people, can you educate them how tough it is for a player to play with cramps?
First of all, it's so absurd and laughable that people are going to try to determine from the outside if he should have kept trying to go. I saw him come back in the game, go by Diaw, get a layup, and land, and immediately lock up. I don't know what these people in the Twitterverse want him to do. I mean, if your body's locked up, it's locked up. And frankly, I don't understand in the bigger picture, guys, why this guy is not more adored. I'm looking at it. Right. I see him play great basketball, conduct himself in a tremendous manner, seems to be a great father from when I watch him interact with his kids. And I don't understand the hate. If all anybody has to hang their hat on, they don't like him, it's because he changed teams, then guess what? Get over it. Almost everybody changes teams. And secondly, if it's because of the decision and how he announced that he was going to be a free agent and go someplace else, then I would say if that's the worst thing he's done in his professional life, this guy has led an exemplary life. I just don't understand it.
Well, what's even interesting more, if you go deeper, why do they hate LeBron? Why did they love Jordan so much? It just seems like Jordan's always exempt from criticism. Everything he does is held to a much higher level. He had 103 temperature against the Jazz in 96. He would have never had cramps. He would have played. Is it just because he's 6-0?
And also, he's a pretty mean guy, too, when he was on the court.
So they look like they're both really guys that you can get along with and like, and both very marketable. One the nation wants to hate, and one the nation couldn't get over themselves loving him so much as they did.
And rightfully so with Jordan. What I don't understand is love Jordan. It's not a Jordan versus James debate. It's Jordan was, the all-time great. James is still in the midst of his career. We'll see where it ends. But let's not underappreciate what this guy is accomplishing. And it's not just since he got to Miami. He took a 2007 Cavalier teams to the final. And those other four members of the starting lineup were just okay. This guy has done both in Cleveland and Miami, and because he got cramps, that is showing that he doesn't have courage. It's utter nonsense, and I don't know if it's because social media existed. If social media existed back when Jordan played, would it have been the same, like where everybody just hates everybody, because you're anonymous, I guess, on social media in some way? I don't know.
Well, we had Bob Costas on earlier, and he had a great line, Jeff. He really did. He says, social media is not just a meeting ground, but it's become a breeding ground where people feel empowered, because there are other people of their ilk that are just going to just trash people. So I think that's what's happened as well. Well, let's move away from LeBron getting injured for a moment or getting cramps. Up to that point, Jeff, what did you see in this game that might have changed your mind about the series, if anything?
Well, I actually thought San Antonio, it was one of those games they played poorly and shot great. They turned the ball over at a high rate. Wade, James, and Bosh were all very efficient last night. Ray Allen as well. And so I thought it was actually not a well-played game. It was an exciting game, but I didn't think it was well played. And I think both teams, when they go over the film, will be saying to themselves as players and also coaches to players, we need to play much better if we're going to win this series. We're not going to be able to play like this and win the series. Now, I thought Miami was in great shape to win that game last night, up 4, I think, with 7 minutes to go when James left. And then when he came back in and he made the bucket, I think to cut it to 2, I thought they were in great shape. But then, let's give San Antonio some credit. Their offensive play in that fourth quarter was beautiful to watch. 14 for 16 from the floor, 6 for 6 from 3. The passing, the basketball IQ, it was outstanding.
Now, back in the early 80s, routinely, especially at Boston Garden, you would have very warm, hot temperatures, but you were better prepared for it. So if you're coaching in that game last night and unexpectedly it's 90, 91 degrees, what do? Do you reduce minutes? I mean, how do you coach that game differently, Jeff, when the temperature rises to that point?
It's interesting. Our Doris Burke had like a handheld temperature gauge or whatever, and in the third quarter it registered, I think, 92. In the fourth quarter, the middle of the fourth quarter, it went up to 102.
Wow.
Down by their bench. And so there's no preparation for that. Listen, you saw the coaches, both coaches, took players out earlier than normal. LeBron James came out less than, I think, 5 minutes into the third quarter for a rest. Parker was out early for a rest. Duncan, I think, rested longer than he normally would have in a finals game because of all this. So I think it altered completely the rotation of both coaches. And they were really flying by the seat of their pants. And you're right. The difference when somebody says, well, both teams had to endure it, true, but neither team could prepare for it. When you used to go into the old Boston Garden, I coached there, it was warm, but you knew the elements you were up against. To me, a better study is, what if the lights would have gone out? Maybe say they were 80%. You still play. What about 50%? There becomes a time where you have to look at suspending the game for the betterment of the game. I thought halftime was the right time to do that. Mark Jackson and Mike Breen disagreed, and obviously the league did too. It would have been a tough decision to do that because there are so many elements to that decision, so many layers, money, TV, schedule. When do you do it? Do you do it Friday? Do you do it Saturday? Could they have suspended and see if they could have worked on it and played the game like the Super Bowl? You wait a little bit and then come back and play. All those are tough questions, but there does become a point where, you get to extreme heat, and even though it's the same for both teams, it's not right for either team.